Right, so this particular problem is based off of what we learned about Moebius strips, including but not limited to Vi Hart's videos. She had one on Fruit by the Foot, and she had one on Wind and Mr. Ugg, and those links are in Blackboard, or you can Google them. Okay, so I want you to review those videos, but I'm not going to pull up my practice exam right now. I want you to just do that on your own. But I do want to just give you a little reminder about Moebius strips. And one thing I want you to remember is that when you're analyzing them, I want you to analyze them like this. Here's a Moebius strip. I can put little arrows. Now, notice if I put both sets of arrows in the up direction, that would just give me a typical cylinder, like a toilet paper tube or something like that. That's not what we have. What we have is us gluing it in a different direction. This allows us to analyze very nicely what happens if we cut. So for example, the arrow is going from A to B, so that means this point A is this point B. And this is the little edge that you could put a fence around if you are wind. But this is the edge of the world that you can fall off of. Alright, so that's just trying to understand how to construct these guys. If we then cut, let's say we cut this Moebius strip right down like this, it tells us that this little guy starts walking this way. Okay, the little guy is going to go this way. The person is going to end up at corner B. But corner B is where your feet are, so that means the guy's going to flip upside down and start walking that way, none the wiser. Right, then that little guy is going to go this way, and then it becomes harder to draw because the guy's now at A, but what's going on? A with the feet down. So I guess in this case you're back to walking around in the same direction. Okay, no problem. Alright, but what happens if the thing is not split? What's going to go on? What if you're just walking around like this? Let's see, you're walking around like this, and you're walking around, and you're walking around. You get to the end, your head is at corner A, and your feet are at corner B. That means when you come around to the other side of this picture, okay, your feet have to be at the B, and your head has to be at the A. So you've now flipped, okay? You just got to kind of visualize what's happening, but these little diagrams really help tremendously with sorting out the truth of what's going on. So for example, what happens if you take a strip out of the middle? You make those cuts. And then let's call this point C. But yeah, there's the C. Let's make 2 more points. Let's make it let's make this X and Y. But then that's flipped. So X is up here and Y is down here. Okay? So just to keep the orientation clear, what you're going to end up with if you make these 2 cuts is then you're going to end up with this piece is going to connect to this piece, right? Because corner B is still corner B right here. But then, and corner A is still corner A, so we're good to go there. But the problem is this middle strip isn't connected to anything. It's connected to itself, right? So you're going to go off down here, and you're going to come in up here. So you're going to get inverted. Your little guy who's walking is going to flip and end up on the other side. Okay, so this just really helps you analyze what it is that you're doing. Now, as for the practice exam questions, you can ask all sorts of weird questions, and what they amount to is flipping stuff upside down. So remember, one of the words was hello, but it was written this way. Okay? What happens when you take a mirror? I can just put a mirror down the middle of it, or I can put the mirror here. It doesn't much matter. I want you to see what happens on the other side of that mirror is you get hello. And that might look like I just wrote the same word again, but that's true. But let's take something that isn't written the same way. Okay, how about math? Okay, let me put the mirror down, and you get this. It doesn't look like a word, does it? So the M turns into a W, the A doesn't turn into anything interesting, the H is still an H, but see, this is why in the video what Vihart did is instead of writing A's, she wrote like a V, and like an A without a line across it will just turn into a V when you flip it. And for T, she didn't make T, she did something like this. She would do something like that. That would be a good way to write math if you feel like flipping it, but it doesn't turn into a word, it's just WVFH. So you can tell she put a lot of thought into how to tell her story. And so on your exam, I can ask you to flip words, but they have to be carefully constructed to be obvious when they're flipped. The other thing you should be aware of in the story is just be aware of the storyline. Something important is that always Wind writes something and then her friend, her imaginary friend Mr. Ugg, writes something back. It's always she writes, he responds, she writes, he responds. And so you have to just keep that in mind, because if I'm going to ask a question about what was his response when she wrote such and such, or what did she write that prompted him to say such and such, that's what I'm talking about. It's just another way of saying, please flip this word upside down. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. And again, embedded in this exam question, there are questions about what happens when you slice a Moebius strip down the middle or down a third, and you just have to be aware of those answers. And if you don't know, then take a piece of paper and try it. Hopefully you will have fun with this question. Okay, that's it.